Hi Divas, welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about literally whatever I want to, but mostly books. So I am aware that my presence is a present, and so I am very sorry that I have been absent for a minute. I know that your lives have been really altered by that. But if you were having a difficult time, just know that I was having a worse time. This semester has been fucking awful for me. I honestly feel like it's been awful for everybody. Literally every single person that I've talked to has been like, yeah, this semester has been awful. So yeah, in the craziness of life, I just had to take a step back, but now I'm here. As of yesterday, my semester is over. I turned in my last assignment. And today I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a wrap up of what I read, what I watched. And, while we do this little reading recap, I also want to talk a little bit about, you know, how the semester went for me because, like I said, it was fucking awful. And I just want to rant, talk, you know, the vibes. And then I'm also going to give you guys a quick summer TBR, I think. We'll see. All right, so the first book that I read was The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. You know what? I brought my laptop so I could pull up my notes so I wasn't just like pulling shit out of my ass. You see, the thing about my notes from this class is it was a theory class. It was theory of theory. Oh, fucking theory of theory. Jesus. Theory of gender and sexuality. Thank you. It was a very abstract class, and so my notes are very abstract. And so when I read them back, especially this was the first fucking thing that I read. So these are notes from what, January? I'm like, what am I talking about? Something important to know also, while I was reading this, I wasn't in the class, technically. I was waitlisted for this class for the first 2 weeks, which was part of the reason why my semester was so stressful. I started the semester with 6 classes, and then later in the semester, I dropped down to 4 classes with those 3 master's level classes. So, but because I started with the 6 classes, I feel like I never really caught up. And then for the picture of Dorian Gray, I was like actively reading it, but I wasn't doing the assignments because I wasn't in the class. So, but anyway, I did like it. I want to read the uncensored picture of Dorian Gray because I own it. And I was really excited when I read the syllabus because I was like, oh my gosh, I can read the uncensored version probably. And then I went to my professor and she was like, actually read the regular just in case. And I was like, you know what, fair, but also, damn, that's fucked up. But again, I want to read the uncensored version because that has the fucking gay shit in this, and this was just tame. And like for the first gay book ever, like, well, yes, it is tame. Arguably the first gay book ever. I liked it. It was kind of like mid tier for me, I would say, in the books that we read. I guess maybe I shouldn't go in chronological order. I'm honestly like having trouble like coming up with things to say about this, which is crazy because I didn't end up writing my paper about this book, but I did use this book as evidence in the paper that I was writing, like in my first draft. And even though like I cut it in the final draft, like I still did research and like I still can't tell you shit. It just feels. Is it a fair critique to say that it feels like classic? It feels good and standard, but like a little bit predictable, but like only because it's been out for so long. You know what I mean? I'll have to come back to you guys when I read the uncensored picture of Dorian Gray. See if I have similar thoughts, see if it is still incredibly forgettable. There are some very interesting things in this book. Loved studying this book, loved talking about this book. Wish I could tell you anything about it. I hope that's not a common theme. I hope that like my brain isn't fried from this semester and I can like actually speak well and academically about these books, but we shall see. I'm actually going to pull up this syllabus for this class as well because we had so many supplemental readings and films. Oh my gosh, we had so many films in this class that I do want to talk about. In my Jane Austen class, we read the entire Jane Austen canon. in the one semester, so 6 books, and it still, like, the theory class still transcended it in reading workload. I think we had 5 books and then like a bunch of different movies and a bunch of different like articles and texts. It was fucking crazy. We read an excerpt from Stone Butch Blues. I forgot about that. I think that we only read the introduction or the first chapter, but it really made me want to read the rest. Like, I wanted to read it before, but it made me really want to, attack it. What the fuck was that? It made me really want to read it. We watched the film Fire, directed by Deepa Mehta. I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. Beautiful film. That was also an incredible film to talk about in class. I loved studying it. I loved analyzing it. There are some fucking goated movies in this syllabus, which is like why I wanted to include the movies in this reading wrap up. We did watch Fight Club, and that was incredible. That was gorgeous. Well, I had seen it before, but it was incredible to like revisit it. Loved, loved, loved. It's so gay. It's such a gay movie. I know that that's like not astute and like crazy to say, but like it's just really, really gay. And it was really, really fun to study it in a gender and sexuality class, especially because that leads me into the book that we read in tandem with Fight Club, and that is Queerelle by Jean Genet, which hopefully I actually do have a lot to say because I really enjoyed this book. This is maybe one of my favorite books that I read for the semester. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at my notes and I related one of the scenes in this book to Challengers. God, we spent so much time on this book. This is such a fascinating text to study because it is incredibly rich and dense. It almost feels a little bit surrealist, but in like a really dark, twisted, and queer way. I feel like this has some really interesting and accurate representation of the homosexual experience, specifically the male homosexual experience. I think that that's important to note. I think that this does have interesting questions about women and like the place of women in the queer community, but this certainly is a book that focuses on gay men. It's kind of a queer Fight Club. It's very, macho, masculine, but again, it's also incredibly queer, incredibly horny and sexy, and like a little bit disgusting and degrading. It's a nasty book. It's a nasty, nasty book. It's a crazy book. I loved this book. I'd love to reread this sometime soon, honestly. All right, I decided that I am just going to go class by class. So I'm going to finish up what I did for this theory of gender and sexuality class. I've just been yapping with like no direction. So the next thing that we read, which by the way, I am like excluding basically all of the articles. So like I'm not just going through the syllabus and like telling you everything. I'm just telling you the books and the movies pretty much. Giovanni's Room, James Baldwin. I did end up writing part of my paper about this, and honestly, kind of didn't like this. This is my first full James Baldwin novel, so I would say maybe I'm just like not particularly used to his style. But last semester I read an excerpt from Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone, and that was exponentially better. I loved that. Granted, again, I didn't read the whole book. I just read like I think the first 50-ish pages, but like I really, really liked it, and I thought that the writing was a lot better than this. There's a sentence that starts chapter 1 and chapter 2. It's literally the exact same sentence, which I did write in my paper. I did use in my paper as evidence for like emphasis and like Baldwin drawing emphasis to this point. But it is basically the exact same wording, which I feel like is crazy, especially because like again, it starts both of the chapters back to back. So the first sentence of chapter 1 is, I remember that life in that room seemed to be occurring beneath the sea. Time flowed past indifferently above us. Hours and days had no meaning. And then the last sentence of the first paragraph in chapter 2, so not the first sentence, but like still beginning of the chapter, but it reads, "Life in that room seemed to be occurring underwater, as I say, and it is certain that I underwent a sea change there." So the phrase "life in that water seemed to be occurring underwater, beneath the sea," it's just one example of, I feel like, strange repetitive phrasing throughout the novel, which I feel like really drags it out. I do think that this has some really interesting things to say. I think that its exploration of repression is specifically incredibly fascinating. That is what I ended up writing my paper about, is how David's repression of his sexuality like destroyed him and the people around him. So like that's not to say that I don't think that there's academic merit and validity, and like not even just academic validity, but like I don't know. I guess I'm saying like it's a good book. And like I understand if you like it. I enjoyed studying it. I think it has some good things to say. It just wasn't particularly the truth tea for me. All right, the next book that we read was Sula by Toni Morrison. And like I said with Baldwin, I don't think that for him it was a style issue, because again, I had read a previous work of his, and so I understood and I liked his style. I just didn't like that text. Sula by Toni Morrison was my first Morrison text, period. So the first part, I like did not understand what she was going for at all. And then in part 2, I like got it. I was like, oh, okay, I understand. I see what you're doing. Really enjoyed part 2. Really enjoyed talking about this in class. Really helped me understand the novel, what it was trying to do, what it was saying. Also, a very rich and dense text that, like, reading it on my own, it was really hard to kind of dig into everything. And because there was so much, like it almost felt overwhelming a little bit to read it. But that's a skill issue. That's just a skill issue on my part. Like, or I guess not even like a skill issue, but just like, I don't know, solvable, avoidable, not a critique towards the novel, but like an explanation of my reading experience. Very excited to read more Toni Morrison. Excited to revisit this text possibly in the future. I'm going to say that a lot. Like, I'm going to say, oh, maybe I'll revisit it in the future. I probably won't for a majority of these, but like, who knows? Never say never. I would be very open to rereading this book, digging a little bit deeper into it, especially like in a couple of years when I'm a bit older, a bit wiser. Maybe I've read a couple more Toni Morrison books. I do own Tar Baby. I just haven't gotten to reading it. And there's a character named Tar Baby in this book, and I don't think that the two are connected, but I think that that's interesting. So maybe I'll read Tar Baby next. All right, then we watched Moonlight, directed by Barry Jenkins, which, like, I don't need to tell you. Great film. Incredible film. If you haven't watched it, watch it. And if you have watched it, rewatch it. It's just really good. I don't need to tell you how good Moonlight is. I do need to tell you how good Capturing the Freedmans is, because wow, that movie was fucking crazy. It's a documentary, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I really don't want to say anything about the plot. I think that it is best if you go in blind. I think even our professor let us into the film pretty blindly. But yeah, just an absolutely insane documentary. Absolutely insane documentary. Loved. Loved. Also, like, an incredibly rich documentary. And it's really like fascinating how much information they're able to put in like such a tight runtime. That's true for another documentary later, which I'm so excited to talk about. So the next book that we read was Lolita, and this was tricky. This was very, very tricky for me. I don't think that anybody out there is like, oh, Lolita was like an easy read. Lolita was a fun, chic read. I didn't have a good time reading this book. And I don't think that that is like an insanely controversial thing to say, because, like, yeah, obviously. But then I was like talking to some of my classmates about it, And it's not that like they enjoyed the content, but like they did enjoy their reading experience because they found, the writing to be absolutely beautiful, which don't get me wrong, it is. It is insane what this text is doing. Also, I think the part two of this book is absolutely mind blowing thematically, but I just hated my experience reading this because it is just such a tricky and difficult read. There's a Vanity Fair review that is on the back of my Penguin edition and is also on like a majority of the copies in our class. And it reads, "The only convincing love story of our century," which is fucking crazy. They didn't read the Rachel incident. Let me fucking tell you that right now. But yeah, tricky read. Did not enjoy this read whatsoever. Could not recommend this read whatsoever. Tricky, tricky boots. Tricky boots. We watched Quinceañera, directed by Glatzer and Westmoreland. I don't have their first names, unfortunately. Oops, but incredible, like, indie film. Why have I not been looking at my reviews? Also, I fully just stopped looking at my notes at a certain point. I think that Quinceañera had a really interesting look at the dynamic between the girls and the gays, which is a dynamic that I think is really fascinating. It's a dynamic that has like a lot of history to it and has a lot of change and nuance to it. I don't know. I think it's really cool. I think it's really interesting to look at in terms of like the love and the hatred that comes with that from both sides. I mean, it's no secret that gay men can still be misogynistic. And it's no secret that straight women can still be homophobic, but there's also like a lot of love and compassion. There's just a very compelling dynamic, which I feel like we touched in this course and like lightly explored, but Quinceanera definitely, I feel like, explored it the most. I also just feel like it's a really good like look into and at teenage pregnancy. I think it's an incredibly interesting and fascinating look into that. Also, some really interesting modern dynamics of queer relationships. I don't know. It's just a very fascinating film. Again, super dense and crazy how much they're putting into it with like the short runtime that they have. Have I talked about all of the books? I have. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I just have these last two movies that we watched, which were two documentaries, Southern Comfort and Paris is Burning, which Paris is Burning was the other documentary that fits so much into so short of a runtime. I think it's only 75 minutes. Like, it's a really short documentary, but oh my god, just perfect filmmaking. Incredibly engaging and fascinating and entertaining while also being very informative, solemn, but also celebratory. It's just a beautiful work of art. And then Southern Comfort was a really interesting flip to that because it was a look at, queer and trans people in Georgia, in the South. And so it was just like a different look. It was a really interesting look. Both were just really, really cool documentaries. Really, really important to watch. Absolutely fantastic. Would highly recommend both of them. Loved. All right. Now we can move on from this class, which this was the heaviest reading load class, as I mentioned. Hopefully, I will spend less time on these other two classes. Let me start with my Jane Austen class because I am planning on doing a separate video about that as well. So I won't spend too much time on that. And then I think that like my next class is my lightest reading load. So I shouldn't spend too much time on that either. Okay. Work. This is going to be incredible. So mostly I just want to like show you the copies because I did prioritize getting pretty copies over anything else. First, I got the Jane Austen gift set Puffin in Bloom collection. Ooh, how gorgeous. We have Pride and Prejudice, which is gorgeous. All of these have a quote on the back, and I think that this one is my favorite. It is, "You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you," which is one of the best lines of, like, romance declaration in any Jane Austen novel. However, fuck this book. Hated this book. Hated this book. You know what? I'm kind of gonna rage bait you guys a little bit. Sorry, but I'm gonna be open about it. I'm going to make like wild and absurd takes on these books, not elaborate on them, and then like we'll talk about it in the Jane Austen video. Sorry guys, rage baiting, clickbaiting, whatever the fuck you want to call it, but I will be doing it. Okay, next up we have Sense and Sensibility. The quote on this is to wish was to hope and to hope was to expect, which good quote, not like, okay, while I think that like this is a better quote than this, I think that after finishing the novels, this like works better as a back quote, and this doesn't work as well as a back quote. I don't really understand why they picked this as a back quote. Well, actually I do a little bit, but it's still kind of weird. Anyways, the book itself, I really, really liked. I did end up writing my paper about this and, really, really enjoyed, really loved. This is probably my favorite Jane Austen novel. And then the last one in the Puffin and Bloom collection is Emma, which is the only book that I didn't read. Oops. Like I said, this semester was just fucking crazy. And I was like really going through it when we were reading this book with like my workload for other classes as well as things happening in my personal life. Not to get too into it, but like I kind of experienced Austenian romance myself this semester. And it was really fucked up. It was incredible. Loved it. Such fond memories. Gorgeous memories. Absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heart-wrenching. Absolutely tore me apart. So yeah, I didn't get to read this book because it was like, how many pages is this? 576. Yeah, my copy is 576 pages. I'm not fucking reading that. Like, no, I will read it. That's why, like, I don't want to, like, go too in depth on these because, like, I haven't read all of the books. I haven't read this, but this is the only one that I haven't read. So I do want to read it. I've watched Clueless, which honestly, great adaptation of Emma. Fantastic adaptation of Emma. And then I also watched the like 4-part BBC series or something, which was also a very accurate adaptation. However, I did fail both of the reading quizzes. So like do with that what you will. Now that I've talked about that set, I'm going to go from ugliest to prettiest in terms of like cover design. Because next we have Mansfield Park, which I actually did really enjoy. This is tricky to get into. It's a very tricky start to the book, but I honestly think once the Crawfords come in, that's when things really pick up. The Crawfords are absolutely what make this book. Otherwise, you are just sitting with like an insufferable main character and like her fuck ass cousin. Which, like, don't get me wrong, I actually really liked Edmund. I feel like I was the only person in this class that felt like Edmund was a good romantic hero, good romantic interest, love interest. Yeah, I feel like he was one of the good male love interests. I'll also talk about this in the Jane Austen video, but like none of the men in these books do anything. Yes, Jane Austen is a romance novelist. Yes, she is so much more than that. The men don't do fucking shit in these books, and so it is a little bit crazy to like call these romance books, although they like undoubtedly and inarguably are. And I feel like that's kind of the case with Mansfield Park a little bit. It is so much more than a romance novel. It doesn't feel like a romance novel whatsoever. It's cool. I don't know. I think it's really cool. I think it's a really interesting read, a fascinating read. I wouldn't recommend this as like the first Austen for sure, because I think that it stands out in her canon personally. I think that this is a really strange book for her, but also like possibly the most Austenian book other than Pride and Prejudice. But again, fuck Pride and Prejudice. Hated that shit. Northanger Abbey, I enjoyed. It's a gothic critique, and I think that that was really cool and interesting to read. I felt like this novel specifically was really nice to read in an academic setting for, contextual purposes. There's a lot of mentions of Udolpho Udolpho? Yeah, Udolpho in this book. And we did like read a section from that novel or sections from that novel. And so it was fun to kind of like understand the mockery that Austen was making on that book and like the Gothic novel in general. Catherine, I think, ooh, I have my notes. Oh my goodness. Wait. I should like really make sure that I look at these notes for the Jane Austen video. But the reason that I want to grab these is because we did like a romance awards at the end of the semester, and we did argue that Catherine Morland was the heroine of the year. We argued that she was the best heroine in Austen's canon. We wrote, she takes control of narrative authority, asserting her dominance of the narrative despite her starting off as a failed heroine, and everything is going against her. Her imaginations are a majority of the text, and seeing things through her is dramatic irony, since we see things she can't, which provides entertainment, but ends as a three-dimensional character after realizing her fantasies. She also gets everything that she wants at the end of the novel. And then if you're wondering, we did have a romantic hero, or was it? Romantic hero of the year, love interest of the year, whatever the fuck. What the fuck? And we did argue none of them. And I'm not even going to elaborate on that because, yeah, I feel like none of them are. I think that the only other person that, like, came close was, like, Darcy. And that's boring, and Darcy is boring. Hot take, Darcy is boring. Is he, like, objectively the best love interest in the Austenian romance canon? Yes, but I think that that just shows that, like, none of the male love interests are interesting in any of her books. Like, Darcy is not interesting at all, and he is undoubtedly the best love interest. Anyways, we'll dive deeper into this again in my Jane Austen video. Let me show you the last copy that I have, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's Persuasion, and then this little diva comes off to show this beautiful artwork design, which was painted by somebody incredibly beautiful and gorgeous, Lacey Fowler. Incredible painting by Lacey Fowler. Holy shit. Persuasion was kind of like a mid-tier book for me. It was the book that we ended on, and so at the time of reading, I was like just absolutely over it. I did not understand part two, not in like I guess the sense of like I didn't get it, but in the sense of like I was reading it so quickly and in like such a horrible mental state that like I didn't pick anything up. So perhaps it needs like a light revisiting before I like can give my full thoughts, because this was another one that like talking about it in class, I was like, "Oh, okay, I understand a lot more. I get it." I don't think I would have been able to like fully grasp this text without having like a little bit of historical context. So yeah, that is the Austen reading wrap up. That's the Jane Austen reading wrap up. That class was so tricky. Oh my gosh. Loved like the content, loved reading Austen. The environment that was like fostered in that classroom, oh my gosh, makes me want to shoot my brains out. But let's talk about a classroom environment that was incredibly gorgeous and beautiful, and that was my class on Mina Loy, who you may be asking, who the fuck is Mina Loy? That is exactly also what I was asking first day of class. And honestly, kind of what everybody was asking first day of class. And the professor totally expected that. She is not a very well-known poet. She was a modernist poet that was writing in like 1914 to like 1949-ish. Very interesting woman. She was like in the same circles as like the Dadaist movement, the Futurist movement, the Surrealist movement. And she like took a lot of different aspects from these movements and just like really made them her own. She's a very original and unique poet. Everything is like super dense but so interesting to like dig into and really study. She's also pretty well known for her feminist manifesto, which is just an absolutely incredible and like really interesting read. It really shows who Mina Loy is as a person, and the fact that, like, just because she is, a feminist and progressive and modernist doesn't mean that, like, she has perfect values. In fact, she has, like, some pretty crazy controversial values. At least she writes some crazy controversial values. So she really is just an absolutely fascinating woman to read and study. I wonder, actually, let me read you a couple of short poems if I can find any, because a lot of her poems are like really long, like multiple pages long. She loves a multi-part poem. That's one thing about her. Loves a multi-part poem. But I know that she has short poems that exist. She has a poem about Gertrude Stein, which is short, but like I kind of want to avoid that if I can, because I don't. We're going to talk about Gertrude Stein in a second, and I really don't want to. I think I'm going to read you a couple of poems from Songs to Joanne's, which is a long multi-part poem, so it is meant to be read as a collection, but it is split up into different sections. Whatever, you get it. I'm going to read you sections from that because there are some short sections that are very pretty. Also important to note, this like piece was originally published as love songs, but it was edited down, and like the full version is called Songs to Joanne's, but it is important to note that like it is love songs. Like that's what the collection is. All right, this is section 17, if I'm reading Roman numerals correctly. I don't care where the legs of the furniture are walking to, or what is hidden in the shadows they stride, or what would look at me if the shutters were not shut. Red, a warm color on the battlefield, heavy on my knees as a counterpane. Counter. I counted the fringe of the towel, till two tassels clinging together let the square room fall away from a round vacuum, dilating with my breath. And then I'm going to read you section 3 because this is also very short and very pretty. We might have coupled in the bed-ridden monopoly of a moment, or broken flesh with one another at the profane communion table where wine is spilled on promiscuous lips. We might have given birth to a butterfly, with the daily news printed in blood on its wings. Really interesting woman, really interesting poet. Mostly we did just focus on the Lost Lunar Baedeker, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is like most of her work. It's not a complete collection, but it is pretty full. Loved reading this. We didn't like read all of it, but we did read most of it, and I do think that like over the summer I am going to read the rest of the poems that we didn't read, because it's really only about like probably a quarter of the book. Now, this class also had a book that I was supposed to read, but then just like completely didn't, just completely dropped the ball on it. Did not have the time, did not have the energy, couldn't do it. That was Nightwood by Juna Barnes. I think I read the first chapter and I liked the first chapter, but I was just like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. At a certain point, you just need to know when to protect your peace. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to show up to class. I'm going to hear the discussion, and I'm just going to do my best. And luckily my professor was so understanding of me. Again, I was fucking going through it this semester. Something else that happened, oh my gosh. So I currently work 2 part-time jobs, and at one of them I became manager. And the manager was still like a part-time job position, but obviously it's a lot more of an intense position and stressful position. So I was manager for a month, and then I got the news that our building was bought, and so our business was shutting down, which was gorgeous. Loved that, but alas, what are you gonna do? So it's been tricky. It's been really tricky. Oh my gosh, that oh my god. All that goes to say, I knew that I needed to like drop the ball on some things just to protect my peace. And unfortunately, Nightwood was a book that I dropped the ball on. Oh, I said that we were going to talk about Gertrude Stein. I like really don't want to. Like, I really fucking don't want to. We didn't read like the full selected writings of Gertrude Stein, thank God, but like we did read a couple of sections. Hate Gertrude Stein's writing, hate what she's doing. I think Mina Loy does it much fucking better. Clock that motherfucking T. This Mina Loy class was actually quite tricky for me because we would like explore Mina Loy and like her writing and her shit. I feel like also the lighting wildly changed, and I don't know why or how and when. So like we would read Mina Loy, and then we would read like the prolific artists of the movements that she was taking inspiration from. But like the thing is like all of those prolific artists low key sucked dick and balls. We read Spring and All by William Carlos Williams. That was good. That was fun. I liked reading that. That was a good poem. Beyond that, we didn't have like a lot of other like readings particularly. I reread. Ooh, you know what? Actually, stop. I forgot about this. I forgot about this because it wasn't in the syllabus, but I did read it for an assignment. I read the play by Valerie Solanas, Up Your Ass, or From the Cradle to the Boat, or The Big Suck, or Up from the Slime. That is the title. It also, aka Up Your Ass. And that play was crazy. It was like a very degenerate play, and it was like trying to be very, provocative, excessive, and she succeeded at that. It is a provocative and excessive play. Valerie Solanas is a very interesting artist to me. Controversial, crazy, perchance, possibly, but I also think quite misunderstood. Possibly, potentially. Very interesting person. Very interesting artist. Cool. I think that that is everything that I read this semester. Let me see. Is there anything else that like I watched? I watched Clueless. That also wasn't assigned. So like I didn't watch it in place of Emma, obviously. I watched the BBC version in place of reading Emma. But again, I do just think that like Clueless is a good Emma adaptation. All right, let's get into a quick little TBR of what I want to read over the summer. All right, I think I'm going to start this with some free books that I got. We had a little section on our campus for free books, just like, a little free library, just like on campus. And so over the semester, I got 4 books from that, all of which I'm really excited to read. The first one is A Love Song, A Death Rattle, A Battle Cry, which is by Kyle Tran Meyer, I want to say. It's poems, lyrics, and essays. And I don't know, just like scrolling through it, it seemed pretty interesting. It seems like there's going to be a lot of really fascinating themes and conversations. Next, I have The Looking Glass War by John Le Carre. I think that this is like the only book that I don't think is like by a local author. I haven't looked like too deep into any of these books, but 3 of these books give like local author, and then one of these is like just like old classic. Anyways, it's a spy novel. I've heard of John Le Carre before, and I saw it on the shelf and I was like, you know what? It's free. So I picked it up. We'll see if I get to it. I don't know anything about this book specifically. I think that like it's okay. I think the book that was recommended to me of his was like the sequel to this book that like you didn't need to read this book to understand the sequel. Does that make sense? So like I'm excited to like read the original despite that. Next up, I have this book called Powerhouse of the Cell, which has an absolutely incredible cover. Love this cover design. It's by Jojo Fransworth, and who did the cover design? The cover art was by Jasmine De La Cruz and Jojo Fransworth. So props to those two. Absolutely incredible cover design. Love this. The cover is why I picked this book up. Unfortunately, it does seem to have emojis inside the text itself, which does make me a little scared. But like I have read excerpts of it, and like I've looked through the author's Instagram, and like I'm open to, the stylistic choice, open to seeing what they do with it, and also just very excited about this book. I think that it's going to be a really interesting and fascinating read. And then the last free book that I got, I believe, is an essay collection. Yes, it is an essay collection called The Tilling by Matthew Morris. Also, incredible cover, and partly the reason why I picked this up. All of these have incredible covers. I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, props to the divas who did these. Like, absolutely insane cover designs. Alright, I really hope that the camera angle didn't just change drastically, but my phone just ran out of storage. So I'm going to try and wrap things up real quick because I only deleted a couple of things. So I don't know how much time we have left. Let me speed through this quick pile of books that I want to read. First, I have Rabbit Cake by Amy Harnett, right? Amy Harnett, not Amy, my bad. I don't know anything about this book. The only thing that I know is Kevin Wilson blurbed it, who I own one of his books, haven't read it, and the guy that I was seeing this semester really liked it and left it for me. So, really excited to read it, really excited to talk to him about it. Next, I have Tonight I'm Someone Else, which is essays by Chelsea Hodson. Also, don't know too much about this. I don't like really want to look at the description because I don't know. This just felt like I feel like there's a certain subgenre of essay collections that is just like chic woman, and I feel like this. Oh yeah, yeah. This is going to fit into that because Miranda July blurbed this. This is absolutely fitting in the chic woman section of the short story collections that I love. Very excited about that. Next, I have Andromeda by Therese Bowman. I started this semester. I am 19 pages in. Love that. I do want to finish this, perhaps restart it. It's a very short book, and the 18 pages that I've read so far, I have really, really enjoyed. I have The Uncensored Picture of Dorian Gray. I've already talked about that. We have The Ex-Wife by Ursula Parrott. I don't know too much about this other than it is a divorce novel that was like a bestseller in like the jazz age, which like absolutely hooked me, 100% sold me, 100% into it. Cannot wait. Very excited about this. Love a book about marriage and divorce. Love, love, love. And love like a classic. Or I love like a classic feeling book that like challenges what a classic can be, you know? Almost, I don't know. I don't know. Very, very excited about that. I also have Bonjour Tristesse by Francois Sagan. Hopefully. This feels like a summer novel, so I want to read this in the summer. I wanted to read it last summer, but I didn't get to it. And then I've been waiting for summer again, and now I just kind of don't feel like reading this summer. So we'll see if I get to this. And then I think it was my bookshelf reorganization video where I told y'all that I lost my copy of IRL by Tommy Pico and The Employees by Olga Ravin. These aren't the copies that I lost, unfortunately. I did just cave and buy new copies. So I still lost those bookmarks, which is so fucking sad. But alas, what are you gonna do? But I would like to go back and finish IRL specifically because I was rereading The Employees, so like it wasn't the biggest deal in the world that I lost it. I am really upset that I lost my annotations because this is just such like this is an annotations book. This is like a book that like I am sad to have lost my previous thoughts on it, but like I have already read it. So it's not like I need to go back and read it now, whereas this I have been so excited about this for so long, and it just like had taken me a while to get to it, and then when I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to get to it on the plane." Boom, lose it because of course, fuck my life. So anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. That is everything that I read this semester, everything that I watched this semester, mostly everything that like went down, I think. Again, like I've been absent, I know, I'm really sorry, but like I just again, at a certain point, you know when you need to protect your peace, but it is also very important to me to have this creative outlet. So, very excited to be back in the summer. Hopefully, can manage my time a little bit better in the fall semester. And yeah, just, excited to continue this journey with you. If you would like to continue this journey with me, make sure that you subscribe, do the notification shit, like the video, hype it up. Let's get it moving. Do all the shit that YouTubers tell you to do. You fucking know the vibes, and you should do it to me because aren't I like really pretty, and like aren't I so intellectual? And don't I like stimulate you intellectually speaking? One last thing before I go, I completely forgot I wanted to do this. I got a hoodie in the mail, and I'm so excited about it. It's so pretty. Fucking hello. Hello. That design, so cute. Love. Mila DeGray, absolutely incredible artist. I'm so niche and underground. You should go listen to her. God, is this the same material as... Oh, it is. Oh my gosh, it's the same material as her last hoodie. This is crazy. Hold on. Okay, for context, her last hoodie is like my favorite hoodie in the entire world. It's so comfortable. It's so cute. Absolutely love it. I'm certain that I've worn it in a video before. And honestly, I've worn it so much that like it's no longer like that comfortable. I still wear it because it's so cute and like it is still comfy. It's just not as comfortable as when it was brand new, like this hoodie is, which is brand fucking new. I just got it in the mail. I did an unboxing for you guys. Just got it in the mail. It's brand new and it's a brand new hoodie that I'm so excited for. That is brand new that I got in the mail and it's brand new. Anyways, now that's all that I have for you guys. Have an incredible day. Stream Mila de Grey. Read books. Read books. Be intellectual. Tap into your pretentious bag. Or don't if you don't want to. Because you know what? It's summer. All right. Bye, divas. Love you guys. Mwah.